Hey everyone, it's Clay here, and I'm gonna just sort of talk through some of the readings from last week. We had a reading in each of the two books, the Only Grant Writing book and Winning Grant Step by Step. And the Winning Grant Step by Step chapter was talking about developing the proposal idea, which I'm using as the sort of framework for this brief little lecture. But the chapter from the grant writing book really went into depth on the needs issue, developing the needs statement. So I'm going to do both, sort of combine these, talk a little bit about the needs statement and sort of the overall sort of issues you need to think about as you get your projects going. So the needs statement first. So you need to think about, why would the funder or the grant maker provide the organization with money? What's the problem? What is the need? Why is there a need? What is the need? How can you define this issue in ways that will make sense for your people with the money? Second, what is the central community need or problem being addressed? So, the first question sort of about, this motivation. So why would the funder provide money? What's the connection? Second, what is this central community need or problem being addressed? They're related, closely related, separately, a little bit different. So the need or problem, not all needs or problems necessarily need money for the solution. So why does this need or problem require funding? Why is this problem compelling, and how do I prove that to the funder? So this is about exigency. Why is this an issue that needs to be addressed now? And why do we need to take action? What's at stake here? Features of successful need statements. Okay, so first of all, audience. Who's your grant maker? What can you figure out about this organization? Why do they want to give people money in the first place? How can you connect to their central motivation? What elements of your problem or proposal fit the best with their orientation to philanthropy? Think about the population. Ultimately, who is being affected by the problem? And how can you define that subject of the need that you're identifying here? Who or what has most at stake here, or has most to lose, or what is the concerning issue, and who is it affecting? Think about the context. So there are likely broader social, cultural, historical forces that are affecting the context of the problem. Are you ameliorating some of those issues? Some of these things are too big for us to deal with directly, and sometimes we propose indirect means of addressing these problems. Documentation. So you really need to think about how you can support your claims with evidence. This is the principle of show, don't tell. Well, really, you have to do both. You have to describe and explain the problem, but you really need to be able to document the need. How can you document the need? What evidence can you provide that's compelling, that's going to be persuasive? And you're going to want to think about a wide range of sources here. And especially with community type problems, you'll want to think about, you may be looking at government data, or data from like public policy centers or other nonprofits or organizations or research institutes that are looking at community issues. You might look at news media data, publications talking about this issue, in a range of places, not just academic sources, but also news media, or other public. Maybe there are sites, organizations that have web presences that are presenting data talking about this same problem or a similar problem. You might very well think about academic sources too, and then look at community-based data, and that might include interviewing people who are directly affected, or testimonials, or research that maybe you have to collect on your own to demonstrate this problem in the community, using things like interviews, surveys, observations, etc. The Only Grant Writing book provides some examples of elements of a needs statement, lesson 7, and I would encourage you to take another look at some of those. 145, 1 through 146. There's some good description of other sources of support at the end of the chapter that you should take a look at. Okay, so let's keep moving forward with other things that you sort of want to think about broadly as you start towards the process of developing a grant. You need to think about goals and objectives. What would an improved community situation look like? So what we addressed, we developed the need statement. Now, what are our goals? What are we going to do? How are we going to do it? What is our program or activities, and how are those going to address this problem? So both of these sort of, what is our strategy? How can these strategies improve the situation? So we need to have goals or objectives. On the one hand, you want to think about, maybe the problem's complex, but you're focusing on one narrow thing. So, like the Art Ambassador program through the Art Experience wants to create a new funding stream. And to do that, it wants to sell more art created by the people it works with. Many of them are disabled in a variety of different ways, but the problem is making those art materials ready for sale takes work, and some framing the art can be expensive, and it requires materials. So getting someone who can create frames and buying materials for frames can allow the organization to sell the art and make money both for the organization and the artist. So there's a goal here. Our goal is to create a new funding stream, and our strategy here is to frame the art. So evaluation. This is something to think about too. How are we going to evaluate the success of the program or the activities? You might think about, if you're doing an operational grant and we're able to hire someone, how will we know that person is making a positive contribution to the organization? What sorts of things, how will we assess the success of that position? Will we want certain kinds of returns in terms of social media engagement? Will we want the development, a certain number of hours present supporting programs and activities? What are we going to do to measure that person's success? Budget. We need to think about a budget and we're asking for money. How are we going to spend the money? If we're moving art therapy into the schools, we know that it's about $40,000 for one elementary school. So, are we asking for the same thing for this other middle school, this other elementary school, or are there additional costs? And where does that money go to? Is this just for labor, paying the art therapist salary, or is it providing some materials? Sustainability, right? This is, we're going to support this program, but how grant funders don't just want to support something in the short term. How will we know that it'll be successful in the long term? How will we know that, providing with this money will allow some of these programs to continue in the future? How are we going to keep this train rolling once it leaves the station? So, all right, we'll talk about all these other issues, goals, objectives, etc., in more detail as we go along. But you need to sort of start and talk about, how do these broad questions relate to the sort of program you've been assigned for the grant. So let me know if you have any questions, and we'll see you soon.